Hello and welcome to How to Win the Lottery 1990s module, The Curse of the Atlas by William T. Vollmann. That's not the name of it, but the book is cursed because bad things keep happening to us.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into them, but this book has been cursed. We should have read this. We should have recorded this probably about a month ago.
Yeah.
Didn't. Here we are. The Atlas by William T. Vollmann. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
It's your boy Shreds.
Shreds. We got some news. Before I get into 1996 facts, there's two things I want to say up top.
Uh-huh.
Well, one thing was up top.
Uh-huh. I'm nervous.
We may have already announced this. I don't remember.
Yeah.
We are doing William T. Vollmann's upcoming book, A Table for Fortune.
That's right.
Starting in June. The book comes out in February or March. So if you're listening to this episode about the Atlas, there is a good chance that you are a fan of William T. Vollmann. And if you want to read his upcoming 3,400-page novel, we are going to be covering it across 4 episodes, we think, starting in June.
Yeah, so you get the book in March, and then you have a couple months to read it.
And right in.
Yeah.
And I think from the way that the pictures look, and I think from what we understand, it's split into 4 different volumes. So we'll do each of those in an episode. But this is William T. Vollmann. This is the first book of his that I've read. You were saying to me that these are very, and I have 1996 facts, so don't you worry about that. You were saying to me that he has radically different writing styles.
He has a very diverse style,
but
which I think you actually see within the Atlas.
I will say that based on reading this book, I am relieved because I was worried that this was going to be very difficult, very dense, or whatever. And some of it is difficult or dense.
Some of it is, yeah.
But overall, I'm like, no, I could do 3,400 pages about this guy.
Okay, I'm happy that you feel that way. I'm glad that we didn't read one of his other books then, as the thing that kicked us off here. But he does have books. He's got some books like The Dying Grass, which is a very, very, very long book. That's 1,300 pages or something like that. That's about the Nez Perce War.
Does he have, he has terminal cancer or something? Or he's dying.
I think he has cancer right now. Yeah. But his book on the Nez Perce War is really long, but it's also super readable. And so he has stuff that is really fast moving and easy to read. And then he has stuff that is more tortured and convoluted and harder to read. So I don't know what A Table for Fortune is going to be. I know what I'm hoping for, but either way, it'll be a really interesting time.
I've never read a 3,400-page book. We were talking about this at dinner.
Yeah.
What's the longest book you've read?
It might be Ducks Newburyport, or it might be The Dying Grass. I don't know which one of those is longer. But my longest book might already be a William T. Vollmann book.
Which, I mean, sure, why not?
I mean, for this guy to be as productive as he is and write so many books that are not only long, but require so much research, obviously. Like when you read the Atlas, it's not like he didn't just whip through that. That's not like an on-the-road style. I mean, in some ways it is kind of like Jack Kerouac's On the Road, but it's a much denser, longer, more culturally explorative and culturally exploitative book than On the Road.
Yep. Before we get into that, though, we got 1996 facts.
Yeah. I was, how old were you in 1996?
I would have turned 9 at the end of the year.
Okay. I would have turned 13.
96 is a big year, and we'll talk about why in a second.
Uh-huh.
Maybe. I don't know. Okay. 1996, Independence Day was the highest grossing film of the year. I forgot that I usually make this a quiz.
Oh, you didn't make it a quiz. Yeah, that's fine. I wouldn't have gotten that anyway because I would have said Virtuosity.
Trainspotting premiered. We talked about that book earlier.
Yeah.
3 years after the novel. The Macarena became a global phenomenon.
Sure, yeah.
I remember one time I was in Disney World in, maybe it was 2004. I don't know. I remember doing the Macarena in Disney World. No, it couldn't have been 2004. People were not doing the Macarena in 2004.
I don't think so.
It must have been in that around the time. Spice Girls exploded onto the scene.
Yeah.
Tupac released All Eyes on Me and Machiavelli and then was killed in September. Your favorite television show, Everybody Loves Raymond, premiered.
I do love Everybody Loves Raymond.
Arthur, the animated PBS series, premiered.
I don't care much for that. But obviously, as you know, one of my all-time favorite movies is Arthur, the Dudley Moore film about the lovable drunk billionaire.
And also Arthur 2 on the Move. On the Rocks.
On the Rocks, yeah. That one,
which is bad, right?
It's not great.
DVDs were introduced in Japan, came to America a year later.
Okay.
The Nintendo 64 launched in both Japan and North America alongside Super Mario 64.
Yeah, I remember getting the gold cartridge of Ocarina of Time.
I remember watching on it was whatever became G4, whatever, maybe it was Tech TV or something. And I remember watching like somebody playing Super Mario 64 and being like, I cannot believe how good video games look.
Yeah. Can I tell you, I had that same exact experience when I was like, I want to say maybe 10 years old, 11 years old, playing Genesis. Being like, there's no way video games will ever look better than this.
I remember when I got an Xbox 360, so it's 2005, so it's like, it's the wrong direction. But I remember playing like NBA 2K5 or whatever, or 2K6, I think it was. And I was like, this is lifelike.
Yeah.
It's not. It's very clearly not. But I remember being like, oh my God, they did it.
Yeah, they did it.
And like, it's gotten better. It's gotten a lot better, but it's also not, I don't know.
These mad bastards did it. No, I very much feel like Madden has not improved since 2004.
Well, 2004 was the best Madden.
Yeah.
2005 was okay, but 2004 was the best one.
2005 introduced QB Vision, which fucked everything up.
Yeah, I just turned that off. You could turn that off. Yeah. It was basically the same thing, but it didn't have Michael Vick on the cover. It had Dante Culpepper on the cover, which is cool.
I do love Dante.
I was just served an ad on Instagram for a signed copy by Mike Vick of Madden 2004. I'm just like, ooh, that is a thing I did not know that I wanted. I still don't really want, but I would maybe buy.
Yeah.
Ask Jeeves launched in 1996.
Do you know where Ask Jeeves comes from?
No.
Jeeves and Wooster, P.G. Woodhouse book.
Oh. Is that in the Britain module?
It is a very, very long series of like super comedic novels.
Okay.
And it's about Bertie Wooster, who is a like millionaire idiot child. I mean, he's an adult, but he's like a moron. And then Jeeves is his butler, and Jeeves like solves all the problems and does everything, and Wooster gets all the credit for everything. So Ask Jeeves is like, ask this like...
Well, I knew that Jeeves is like a traditional butler name, but I did not know where it came from. This is one for, well, actually before that, Hotmail was founded.
Hotmail founded 1983, because that's what I am, a Hotmail baby.
This one's for you. IBM's Deep Blue beat Gary Kasparov in a game, but Kasparov won the match.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Tamagotchi hit Japan.
I remember Tamagotchis.
Late 96.
Yeah.
Mad Cow Disease.
I remember Mad Cow Disease, yeah.
Dolly the sheep cloned.
Yeah.
I remember that being like, whoa.
It doesn't seem like much has come of that, though.
No. CRISPR, though.
Yeah.
It probably it probably led to CRISPR.
Probably, yeah. Which is going to lead to me being a billionaire.
Summer Olympics. Your boy, Richard Jewell.
Yep.
Bombed the Atlanta.
Inventor of the Jewel Pod.
Mm-hmm. But Centennial Olympic Park bombing occurred during the Atlanta Summer Olympics. I remember we were on vacation that week and we're just like, oh, wow, that seems bad.
Michael Johnson with the gold shoes, right?
I think so. That sounds right. Kerry Strug. We were just talking about
Kerry Strug, Dominique Dawes, Dominic Mociano, Shannon Miller. Yeah, I remember all those girls.
Chicago Bulls won 72-10.
Right.
A record that the Thunder would break this year if they never had to play the Spurs, but they have to keep losing to the Spurs.
Lost the Spurs 3 times, right?
In 10 days, yeah.
That's wild.
Yep. And the Yankees won their 1996 World Series, launching their late 90s dynasty.
Yeah.
My first note about this book, that's all the facts I have.
How do those facts intersect with this book in any way?
I was thinking about, because when I did the 1990 facts, you're like, do you have any that have anything to do with what we read? And I'm like, no, I didn't think about doing that. I was thinking about trying to do it for but I was like, it's just global facts.
Yeah. Also, the book seems very detached from any kind of pop culture, because I don't think William Vollmann is interested in that.
No, it seems like he exists without a cell phone, that he's never read I don't mean this like condescendingly, but never read a book, never watched a movie, never.
Well, he's incredibly well read, I think.
Well, but it feels like he's just like, my big takeaway from this is the kind of book that makes me feel like I've never lived life.
Yeah, sure.
And also I'm just like, but I'm okay not having lived life.
Because the life that he lives seems so lonely and so pained and so like driven by vices. But then those vices just, when the fulfillment of those vices don't make you feel any closer to humanity or anything. If anything, they push you away from it.
Like, I just think about like the thing, like the scene or the story or the whatever you want to call it that sticks in my mind the most is him just like in that tent by the river and like watching kids have a good time. And he's like there, but he's not there. Like, he's part of the scene, but he's not. And like, they're coming in like to smoke with him or whatever. And it's just like, he's there, but it's not like he's not living, like they're having fun. He's just kind of like watching fun. Yeah.
He's a journalist. He's an observer. And in observing, he is, sometimes he's not a very good journalist because he is taking part and influencing things.
He's doing drugs and like sleeping with sex workers and whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like but
But he's trying to like get the story.
Right. So this book is nonfiction, but also sort of fictionalized.
There's definitely some of it that's fiction because he's talking about angels in the Bible and shit like that, right?
Yeah. But like a lot of it feels like this is, even though he's like the writer or whatever, he's just like, it's first person, like this is a thing that he lived and just like, oh, that's like, and I also think that having a journalism degree that I have basically done nothing with, I always am drawn to journalists and journalism stories and that whole endeavor. And so I think that's also another like angle or element to this that I really like.
It's interesting because he's not, I think, ever on assignment. I think he's a guy that goes places,
writes a story and sells it.
Yeah. And in some cases in a way that is dangerous to himself and to other people. I mean, his first nonfiction book, which is called An Afghanistan Picture Show, is a book about him joining the Mujahideen to fight the USSR in Afghanistan. And it's so funny because so much of that book is him having diarrhea and
you've told me about this,
and
yes.
like not being good at fighting, and the Mujahideen being like, we got to carry this American everywhere with us and save his life constantly, and how he's not like actually contributing to the war effort at all, how he's actually like an incredible burden. And I think that's part of what's going on in this book too, is that he's going to all these places in the world with his money and his influence as a Westerner, as an American. And he's very much influencing the environment around him in a way that a journalist couldn't, because he's,
or quote unquote shouldn't.
Yeah, because he's like automatically changing the environment just through his presence. There's no way that he can get an authentic view of Thailand because he's like a Westerner waving around a wad of cash, giving it out to people that he feels sorry for, right?
Yeah. It does feel like the wad of cash reminded me, like I smiled because it feels like the only thing that he ever wants to clarify in this book at all is just like, that was like $15 American. It's just like, I don't need that footnote. Like I get it, I appreciate it, but like the only thing I'm like, oh, this is a book with footnotes. It's like, no, it's just like that amount of money for a currency you've never interacted with and may never interact with. That's like $20. It's like
life-changing amount of money for the person that I'm giving the money to.
Right.
But he is undercutting, like, I guess, quote unquote, his own generosity by them pointing out, oh, that's actually only $12 for me. So this is like 2 months salary for her. But for me, it was like almost nothing.
Right.
So that's important because it is him saying over and over again, like, it's not like I'm sacrificing for these people when I give them money. But also he is, again, walking into a place and changing the temperature in the room so much.
Well, he becomes the story, right? Kind of.
Yeah.
Even if he's not like, he's not telling the story that he has become the story, but like to the rest of the people in the room, it's like, this American guy came in and like really like changed everything. Yeah,
there's no way for him to authentically experience the areas that he's going to, because he's not going to resorts and things like that where people have money and when people where they're used to seeing Westerners of his kind. He's going into areas that are largely very, very poor and kind of taking advantage.
Yeah. Or even if not taking advantage, like just like living a more extravagant lifestyle than the people around him are able to do just because he is.
Yeah. And when I say taking it, I think he's being moral. I don't
opportunistic
for the most part. I think he's being moral. I guess it would depend on how you feel about sex work and things like that.
Right. But like, he's not casting aspersions there.
No, he's not. I mean, one of his, I think probably his greatest strength as a writer and as a journalist is that like truly there's no judgment in anything that he's doing. He takes people as they are and considers the context of their life circumstances and is not judgmental of even frankly sometimes some things that are pretty bad. So I mean, credit to him in that case.
Yeah. You know? But I think that goes to like where, like what I said to kick things off, where it's like watching him do all of these crazy things is like, wow, I just sit here and just watch movies or whatever. It's like, I don't want to be in a country halfway around the world, like smoking crack with prostitutes in a hotel room. But it also feels like
that sounds all right to me.
It's a story.
Yeah. I would smoke crack with
I will say that the first note that I took though is you asked me about did I get to this part yet?
Oh yeah.
In Alaska, just like the description of mosquitoes and mosquito bites. And it just, it was hard for me to sort of take notes on a lot of this, which does not bode well for the fact that, I read this like almost a month ago or whatever, but that stuck with me because it is so viscerally unpleasant. And the description of just like a woman trying to hitchhike and just basically like giving up and succumbing to mosquitoes,
being
like,
overcome by mosquitoes, to where you see them swarming her face and biting at her face, and when she gets in the car she can finally sort of scrape this like black cloud off of her.
It's horrific.
And there's so much stuff in there about him being bitten by mosquitoes and how you just kind of like get used to it, I guess, or how he has to put the gloves on. The gloves are coated with mosquitoes. When I texted you about that, I did so because I thought, this is one of the most effective horror stories that I've ever read. And I don't think it's meant to be a horror story, but it is the type of thing that makes me think, well, I'm not going to go to Alaska.
Well, I remember like in one of those when you're in elementary school and there's like, scary stories to tell in the dark, like those kind of books or whatever. And I remember one story, like one of the very few that I remember, maybe the only one that I remember, is about a girl who has like a zit or something on her face.
Spiders.
And she goes in the bathtub and like just spiders pour out until like the story ends. I'm just like, that's horrific.
Yeah.
And it feels similar where just like, you're not safe. You're just like coated in bugs, which just feels disgusting.
Yeah. And everyone is, it's interesting because he's preying on this idea that everyone is basically familiar with, which is that the time that you're trying to sleep or the time that you're just walking outside and you hear that insistent buzz in your ear that is like really freaky because it seems like a bug is trying to get in your ear, but they're just like hovering by one of your bodily openings. And that moment is always, nobody likes that. Everyone is horrified by that moment. And he's just presenting it as that, but imagine that there are a million of those things and you can't get away from it.
It also just feels like defeatist where he's like, you can take every precaution and make sure that like the tent you're sleeping in is like fully zipped off or whatever. And then you wake up and you're just coated in bugs again. It's just like, how did they get in here? Just like, they just find a way. Like there's no escaping from them.
Yeah.
No matter how careful or, meticulous you are.
Yeah.
You're going to lose.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
It made me feel glad to not visit Alaska.
I do want to go to Alaska though, just maybe not where the mosquitoes are.
Yeah.
I don't know. Stay away from water, I feel like probably, right? Are they like water bugs or are they not water bugs?
No, yeah, they have to be places that are humid, I think.
Yeah. In terms of the sex worker stuff, there was one story that I thought he did an interesting job of distinguishing, of telling a story without names, but with names, where it's like there's the John, who I think is him.
Yeah, probably.
The white boy, the prostitute, and then there's the white whore and the black whore.
Uh-huh.
And I was just like, that's like, you can follow along like very easily. I'm like, there's no names there, but it's like also like, this is, I thought it was interesting as well to separate or differentiate between like a prostitute and a whore, maybe.
Yeah.
And then later he refers to, in a different story altogether, he describes a woman as being, quote, the whore who was raped by a vacuum cleaner. And like, that's the only way he refers to her. And just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Like that's like a name or a moniker or a story that sticks with you and that just you cannot escape. And I'm like, these are bleak descriptions of life that, again, going back to what we were saying before, that he is maybe influencing or not, or just being a part of or witness to or whatever. And it's like, oof.
Yeah, I think he's very much trying to like, quote unquote, tell it like it is. He wants to see the warts, Yeah. He wants the scabs and all the wounds of the world, and he wants to describe them honestly in a naturalist way. And his style, he has a couple of different modes. And the one mode, I think the mode that's most readable and maybe the best fit for this book is the one that is most journalistic.
Yeah.
It's most conversational, and it gives you a very easy narrative path to follow when on a page-by-page basis, you're just getting the facts of what's happening, and it's stated in like some horrific things are stated in such a matter-of-fact way that you're left to reflect on the matter-of-factness of that. Mm-hmm. Like, how am I meant to read this when someone says casually the whore that was raped by the vacuum cleaner as a name for someone as that person's reality?
Right.
And it's stated matter-of-factly because guess what? That's just reality.
Right.
And we treat this reality the way that we treat all other realities. And the horror of it reflects the indifference of a world that does not care about this woman.
Right.
And then he also sometimes shifts into this high poetic mode, which you get a lot in the Atlas section itself.
Which is the middle section.
Which I think is why both you and Meg texted me separately saying, oh boy, this part's a bit of a slog.
I don't know if so, okay, so the Atlas itself is, what I understand is just like his notebook that he like carries with him. And like he refers to like his history of experiences as this like journalistic notebook, but he calls the Atlas because it follows him everywhere and just like chronicles the world.
Yeah, and it also stands as, I think, a kind of axis on which the world spins somehow, because his world is letters and writing, and so it is not only a chronicle of his world, but it is the world.
Right. There's the middle section, which is maybe about 70 pages long. It's pretty long.
Yeah.
And I think the difficulty or the difference or whatever is that it's so much of it is like these are quick chapters, like sort of bite-sized, like snippets of life, snippets of conversation, whatever. And then you're in a thing for a while.
Yeah.
And just it takes on a different tone.
Yeah, and I think that there's such an intentional structure of this book, right? It's palindromic in that.
Well, apparently it's also a thing that I saw on Wiki that like it goes like by like horizon line. Like what is it is.
Yeah.
The stories in the first half of the book are numbered from 1 to 26 until the central story, also called the Atlas. In the second half, they're numbered in reverse 26 to 1.
Yeah.
The pairs often comment on each other in a variety of ways. In addition to the table of contents, the stories are also listed according to longitude and latitude of their setting. So it feels like they're maybe in order. I don't know.
I'll be honest, I didn't pay any real attention to the longitude and latitude of things.
Yeah, I don't know that it matters. So maybe I misremembered. It just seems like it's like geographically or whatever. But it feels like one and one. Like when before we started reading this, I was saying I was intrigued by it because like to me it evoked sort of Cloud Atlas, which like there's 6 stories and it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it goes 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But they're like literally different characters, like 6 is 6 and 5 is 5 and whatever. And this isn't that, but like
this isn't that.
Apparently 7 comments on 7, which is hard to keep track of like
it's
400 pages later.
I think you'd have to reread
right.
in order for that to really sink in a way that's meaningful, which I think people should do. I think Vollmann is one of the writers that is worthy of rereading his work. Right. As much as I think that his work is, even on a page-to-page basis, pretty uneven, and sometimes does feel like a slog, and sometimes is the most beautiful, heartbreaking, frightening thing that you'll ever read. Mm-hmm. There's a part in the very there are 2 parts, and I think they're both in the pretty close to the beginning. One of which is when he's, I think he's in Sarajevo or something like that, and he is talking about how he actually feels like he has a bullseye on the back of his head. And like as he walks around, he feels as though he's always going to be shot.
Yeah.
And there's something about that that's very, very frightening. Because he is, I think, reflecting the experience of what it's like to live and be born in an area like that, a war-torn area where it does feel like you could just catch a stray bullet to the head at any moment. That's the life that those people live. And so when he intercedes in those lives, he's not immune to things like getting shot. He has an advantage over the people in that circumstance because he can leave, and he does, and he does leave. But when he's in there, he is actually in real danger, just like everybody else.
Well, I think that like I was always in terms of that, where it's like you are a medic on a battlefield, or you are a journalist in a war zone or whatever. Like there is supposedly, or there's supposed to be, this idea that like you don't kill those people. Like they're not shooting at you, you're not supposed to shoot at them. But like, also, like, I was always like, what's to stop anybody from doing that? Like, it just seems like a crazy thing to do.
Well, also, more and more now, those journalists are just getting shot.
Right. Which is crazy.
Yeah. And then the second one that really stuck with me from sort of the beginning of the book is when he's discussing with, I think it's the insurance company of his rental car thing, when the rental car had hit an explosion and the guy that he's with had been killed.
Yeah.
And he's talking with the guy and he's like, I like you. I'm going to pay for the car. If you hassle my friend who died in the car with me, if you hassle his wife, then we're going to have a problem.
Right.
Like he's so willing to solve the problem, even though he's been through this horrific circumstance, and also is being like, I'll kill you if you mess with this guy's wife. But if you don't, I'm happy to pay whatever difference that we have.
That also kind of felt like a comedy a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Where it's like, because the way that I read that was more like you're looking at this the wrong way. Like somebody died. Like you're so concerned about getting the money for your car, which I understand is a problem. But like my friend died, or the guy I was with died.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And the guy's like, yeah, but like, what about my car? What about my money? It's just like it feels like kind of a.
Well, I think one thing that he's saying over and over again in these books is that a lot of the stuff that we value, whether it be a life free from violence or meaningful sex, things like that, those are Western constructs.
Sure.
Or maybe specifically American constructs. The idea that you would be so privileged to not have violence in your life is something that exists, is a sort of like a almost exclusionary cultural idea. Most of the world doesn't get the privilege of existing without violence. And so for us reading this book, this thing that is about death, to the guy renting that car is like, yeah, there are bombs here. They go off.
Right.
That's why you get the insurance. I know that I'm renting cars in an area that's a war zone. I'm not going to like, this guy dying is not that big of a deal to me.
Yeah. I remember that one. I don't remember the Sarajevo one, but I do remember that one as sort of a funny moment. And also, you know, like it is just like the different perspectives and like what is valued, like you're saying, or what is thought of as important, or like how do people just react to different life events, right? Like it feels, and maybe like, you know, in terms of the sex work stuff, like we come from a culture that is like so taboo, but like so many places where he goes are just like, it's just the way it is. Like either you just go to a bar and like this is where like anybody's for sale.
Well, also because in places where there is massive gaps in control of resources, in a way in which capitalism has like exploited workers by, you know, not giving them access to any sort of means of production, the body is like a perpetual moneymaker. Right. So in places where there is such a disparity in classes, you're going to see a rise in sex work because the body can always be exploited in a way that if you don't have resources to sell like goods and services that are not your body, then you're going to find that, which is why that kind of sex work and indulging in that kind of sex work, I think can be really exploitative. And what he's doing is worth questioning, right? And worth having a conversation about whether or not like he's doing a moral good by having sex with these women and paying them. Even if he's improving their life station, it's still, you know, I don't necessarily want to stand in judgment of that or anything, but it is a theme. And so as a theme, it as that theme alongside the theme of international capitalism, like should be investigated and thought about.
Yeah. I'm looking at the text I highlighted. We're going back to the mosquitoes. About 10% of the book. The mosquitoes weren't too bad. They only bit my eyelids, earlobes, cheeks, knees, buttocks, wrists, hands, and ankles a few times. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. We all know about those ankle bites from mosquitoes, right? That's the worst.
So much of this, like, there's like, again, I think what excited me about this, and when we were talking about, like you were saying, it's like uneven from page to page or story to story or whatever. Yeah. I feel like what's cool or interesting, and I also feel is rewarding for an author, although it's different here. But I remember when we read Requiem by Curtis White, like there's like such different stuff in there. And that to me feels like when that's all fiction or whatever, it's like, well, what kind of thing do I want? Like, I want to just talk about like a woman shooting a scene where she can have sex with a dog or whatever. She's like, that's what I'm going to write about today or whatever.
We're going to read that book eventually here.
We did it the first season.
No, we didn't. We did Memories of My Father Watching TV.
I thought we did Requiem. Did we not do Requiem?
No.
I
haven't read Requiem in forever. You read
that was a precursor to the podcast.
Yeah. You read it.
Wow. But like stuff like that, but like here it's a little bit different where it's just like, it's not like he's choosing to write in different ways. It's like whatever, substance he's on or wherever literally he is or wherever like mentally he is influencing the way that he writes.
Yeah, context determines form.
Whoever edits the thing or whatever, right? But like, I think there is something, it might not work out, but it feels like on the podcast, in what we read, whenever things are like sort of scattered, not like short story sense, but like just like different styles, generally winds up being like pretty rewarding or at least interesting. Because also like, again, going back to Giles Goat Boy, where it's like, this is one thing for it throughout. Just like, if that doesn't hit for you, like that is going to be a tough thing.
Yeah.
If John Barth was like, and now here, like it's from the perspective of like a whatever, just like, okay, like we'll try that for a little bit. But when it's just, no.
Yeah. That's fun. Yeah.
I really thought we did Requiem, but we did, that was in season 1 though.
We did Memories
of
My
My
Father watching TV. Yeah. I love Curtis White. I think Curtis White is a good person to read alongside Vollmann because I think they're so different, but I still think that they have like weird postmodern things in common.
And they also have like distinct, or not distinct, but like very different styles within their writing and like just different like experiences, like the same source, but different results or whatever.
Yeah. I love Curtis White. He's one of my all-time faves. Another story in here that really got to me, I guess, was when he's looking for his quote unquote wife.
Yeah.
And he can't find her over and over again, and then he does find her.
Is that his wife? Like I couldn't really.
No, not wife as we think of wife,
but like some like great sex worker that he found that he's trying to find again or something.
I think it's just a woman that he maybe quote unquote loves in his own way, that when he visits that country wants to see and thinks of her as someone that he wants to take care of and maybe even wants to take her home. But she might not see him that way, or she...
Well, it's really sad as he's looking for her, and then he finds her, and it's even more sad, but it's a different kind of sad.
Yeah.
Where it's like unclear if she remembers him, and then she does remember him, maybe, or maybe she's lying, and then she reacts in ways that feel like, oh, this doesn't feel like what he wants. Like, it can't be possibly what he wants, and like...
Yeah, and she's visiting him at the hotel, but it's like, oh, she'll be back tomorrow, but then she doesn't come, then she comes the next week, and it's...
A lot of the book, though, like, and maybe it's like the sex work position or whatever, but a lot of it feels like having a thing, like, paying for a prostitute or whatever, and then she'd be like, "Oh no, I'll be right back," and she's like, "Well, she might never come back."
Yeah,
but like also sometimes she does.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of him just trusting people and also feeling that guilt of. I think there's a lot of guilt in this book, and I think that guilt comes from his being like Westerner of a certain financial status that these other people don't have. I mean, William Vollmann's not a rich man. I think the money that William Vollmann has, I think probably cycles directly back into his creating his art. I don't think he's like a guy that has a $2 million house in Sacramento.
Well, it also feels like he would not be happy there if he was just sitting in, like, even if like just like not even a $2 million house, but like he wouldn't want to be in one place for too long.
Yeah. So I think he is a person that, his guilt exists and he spends that guilt like because he feels guilty that his life position is better than these
like guilt
people.
As currency.
He goes there and he goes, well, let me spread this money around. And so if he gives money to a prostitute and she says, I'm going to go, like, I have to go do this first, I think if she doesn't come back, he's almost fine with it because it's not necessarily about having sex with that person. It's about
an experience.
It's about an experience and getting ripped off as an experience, but it's also about giving money away to someone that might need the money, And he has this really interesting position. Not interesting. I mean, I think it's the correct position because you know how so many people are like, don't give money to a homeless person because they're just going to spend it on drugs or whatever.
Right.
Like my position on that has always been like, who cares?
Right.
Like let them spend it on drugs. Let them spend it on whatever the fuck they want to spend it on. Whatever makes their life a little bit better, even for a moment, let them do that with it. And I think that seems to be kind of what his position on this is, that you give money and that money's not attached to anything necessarily. Although oftentimes it does seem to be attached to sex. But I get the sense that if this person left and never had sex with him, he would also be fine with it because the point is paying the money, not having sex.
It also feels like almost like a tax write-off. Just like, well, I'm just spending money to create content or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, to like smoke crack with prostitutes because that's how you get prostitutes to talk to you.
Right. I've seen a few dead bodies in my work as a journalist. I've looked into a number of murderers' eyes. When I took my leave of the happy couple a few minutes later, I said to myself, I truly believe in the stars. Like, there's just like, I read through or I skimmed through all of the things that I highlighted. And like, there's not like, they're not narrative. They're just like single lines of beauty that are just like great. Like,
I think he's a great writer.
Apparently when he was on a tour to promote this book,
He's firing a gun
loaded with blanks during the first story, The Back of My Head, which is, I think, what you're talking about. Yeah.
And then he got in trouble.
Yeah.
They had to be
don't do that.
Yeah, don't. That's obvious. You're obviously not allowed to shoot a gun in a bookstore.
Do you know about like his life story?
Because
his wiki is fascinating.
A little bit. I know I know. Mostly, I know of his writing life.
So when he was 9, his 6-year-old sister drowned.
I know about that. Yeah.
While he was supposed to be watching her, so he felt like guilty about that.
And you get a lot of that in the book.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk about his dead sister.
His wife is a radiation oncologist living in Sacramento. Mm-hmm. In 2022, so 3 years ago, or I guess 4 years ago by the time this episode comes out, Vollmann's daughter died of complications from alcoholism.
I know about that, yeah.
He identifies as, quote, a hack journalist. I think that's what we're talking about. Like, this is like putting a word to what we were talking about. He does travel writing and reportage while doing research for larger fiction or nonfiction projects. So just, I guess, like trying to think or whatever, but just, you know.
And he recently he wrote a book where he lived as a woman for a long period of time and then like wrote that book as the experience that he felt as like a woman in
2008, as part of an exploration of femininity, he began cross-dressing and developed a female alter ego named Dolores, which is documented in the Book of Dolores. Quote, Dolores is a relatively young woman trapped in this fat, aging male body, he said. I've bought her a bunch of clothes, but she's not grateful. She would like to get rid of me if she could.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a unique writer.
He hates cell phones, credit cards, fame, other modern age touchstones, but has also been characterized as a misanthrope, even a Luddite. And then in August of 2025, he revealed he'd been battling colon cancer for years, was undergoing chemotherapy, and had about 2 to 3 years to live.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and say that calling him a misanthrope is bullshit. Like, he very clearly loves humanity.
Right.
There's no he's not a misanthrope.
You don't write about people the way he does.
You're not. He's not a misanthrope.
Also, if he wrote
that sucks.
If he had the same experiences and wrote about them as in that perspective, like this would be a miserable book to get through.
Yeah.
Like I think like the way that he has to view the world is like he finds beauty in things that like most people like would be like. I would be afraid to like walk down the streets where he like finds like beauty in these countries.
Yeah, he's also something that you didn't mention there, and I don't know if this is on his Wikipedia page because I didn't go to his Wikipedia page. After he did a Freedom of Information request on his FBI file, he learned that he was a major suspect in the Unabomber bombings.
I did not copy that.
So that's interesting.
The only other thing that I copied from his wiki was, I guess 2 things. Okay, he wrote the 3,300-page Rising Up and Rising Down, which is a heavily illustrated 7-volume treatise on violence, nominated for the National Book Critics Circle Award. And then they condense it down to a single volume, and he's like, "Oh, I did that for the money."
Yeah, I have the single volume. I gave it to my dad for Christmas one year, like right after it came out. I have always wanted that
the full thing,
and it was always so expensive that I couldn't afford it.
So I have. This is not a book that we're reading, but there's the Taschen put out the Shining book. Like there's like a beautiful. I have it in there, and I bought this book. It's like $125, and it's like a big book, and like. It's a book about the making of the film and like a book about like behind the scenes like production or whatever.
Yeah, I just bought that for Christmas.
$125. The original, do you know that there was the $2,500 version that was like a huge like 150 like 50-pound thing or whatever?
Yeah, that's insane.
And there's like actual like recreation of like things. I'm just like, who has money for that? The other thing that I copied from his thing said that he was awarded in 2008 a 5-year Strauss Living Award, which gives $50,000 a year tax-free to let people just solely write.
Good. He's the type of person that should be getting that sort of thing.
And then I guess the first book he published while, receiving that money was Imperial, about a nonfiction account of life in Imperial County, California on the border of Mexico.
Yeah, I got that book.
That seems like such a cool thing to be like, here's $50,000, no money taken out, just write.
Well, that's what the there's the MacArthur Genius Grant too, which is a $500,000 grant. I don't know if that's taxed. It very well may be. But the thing about the MacArthur Genius Grant is it's them saying, here's $500,000. We trust you. No strings attached. Do whatever you want with that money.
And it's taxable.
It's annoying.
So you get like $275 or $300 or whatever, right?
That's annoying.
Yeah, I think even if we had recorded this like the day that I had finished reading the book, I don't know that I would have much more to say about specific things because I feel like a lot of it by design or by the way that it's formatted, it sort of bleeds together and individual stories matter less than the overall experience, I think.
Yeah. I think a reread would be interesting.
A reread would be interesting. I would also be interested to explore more of his stuff. I also am looking forward to A Table for Fortune.
Well, I'll say also that as you read through this book, many of the chapter titles are of different books that he's written. So it's like The Rifles is one. I think Father and Crows is one. And these are all from a thing called the Seven Dreams series. Butterfly Stories is one, which is a book about I think his experiences as prostitutes. That's a fictionalized account of that. And then his Seven Dreams series is an exploration of indigenous Americans and their different struggles with, I guess, colonialism and things like that. So like Fathers and Crows, The Rifles. I don't think that the sections are actually from his other novels. But they're just named after that. So it's like these are thematic things that are revisited throughout his entire career.
I also thought like a structurally interesting thing is like when you start a new chapter, it says like the cities that it takes place in, but sometimes it's like 30 of the same town just listed like Sacramento, just like, okay. Like maybe we don't need that, but also like it's cool. That's like, no, we're here. Like this is like be in this place.
Yeah. It's not about needing it. It's about he found a different way for you to accept the like chapter format.
Yeah.
And I love it.
It's very cool.
I think he's really aesthetically minded, and in being aesthetically minded in that way, it makes reading more pleasurable.
Well, I also think like when we get to the atlas, like the actual middle section, like I think it's like maybe 3 pages of just like where we're going to be.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, like just like next page. It's like, okay.
Yeah, it's fun.
Anything else to say, or should we read some emails?
Let's read some emails.
So we have email from Egg. We also have an email address, lottery@cageclub.me. So we have Spotify comments. We also have a lot of YouTube comments. YouTube used to email comments. They don't anymore. We'll save the YouTube comments for next time for I Love Dick.
So do you have to scroll through the YouTube stuff?
When you log into YouTube as the person who uploads videos, like there's a community section, there's a comment section. And so I have everything there, but it's just like, it used to be like, hey, this person commented on this video. And it's like, oh, like that's cool. They stopped it. Like it's set up properly. It's just, they don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have an email address, lottery@cageclub.me. Like we said, we are going to be reading A Table for Fortune. If you want to write in about any Vollmann book, I have not read it. Treads might have read it. Who knows?
Yeah.
We can talk about that or literally any book, lottery@cageclub.me. But we have an email address now we have an email from the Eggster, Meg's reaction to the Atlas. I also don't think that I said the Atlas was a slog. I was looking back like the middle part. I don't think I think she struggled more with it than.
Fair enough.
I rated this book as 3 stars on Goodreads, the Egg says, but it felt like that's more of a me problem. This book felt difficult to grasp in a way that it felt like Blake Butler's work. I guess in the way that that felt like the book was an object, ? At least in a way that made me feel not smart. Pieces of this book also reminded me of Blood Meridian.
Yeah, okay.
If I didn't get stuck in the meta center of the palindrome, would you call it a meta center?
Yeah, because he starts talking about the Atlas, right? And as a...
Okay. Yeah. It's like self-referential.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have spent more time thinking about the connected stories before writing this email. All in all, a very dense book I would not have finished without the pod.
Ooh, wouldn't have finished it. Well, let's see how Table for Fortune goes.
Yep. Good luck to the Egg. Also, we should say, Table of Fortune, very expensive.
Very expensive.
It's an $80 Kindle book or like $125 hardback.
Which is, and I talked with Matt about this. I think maybe we were in the group chat. Maybe you were in the group chat with Matt as well. One of the reasons why it is such an expensive book is because you have to license fonts.
Yeah, which is crazy.
And because he uses a series of different fonts in it, which makes me wonder how expensive House of Leaves is to print.
Yep. Yeah, crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Question for you about a later book this season, From Hell. That's all like that's not a font. Like that's like he's like handwriting because like
there's a letterer. Yeah.
But like it's a crazy thing to read. Like it's like it looks like the letters are melting kind of.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You know?
Well, lettering is an art.
Yeah.
And I think in comic books, lettering, I'm afraid that it's an art that's going to go away because it feels like That's something you can use a computer to do.
Well, there was also, I was listening to, I think it was a CBB Best of, where, no, it was a Freedom, where Scott was talking about the experience of writing Spider-Man. He was just talking about onomatopoeia. And as a writer of a comic book, you spend a lot of time trying to figure out what sounds, like how to write sounds.
Yeah, sure.
Which I never would have thought was like the writer's responsibility. I would have thought that was the artist, but it makes sense that it's the writer. But then like in From Hell, there's like the thrusting, like there's like a sex that goes on for like 6 pages, like ung, UNGH over and over. I'm just like, okay, that's pretty, all right.
We've all been there in the ung days of our lives.
I'm going to look up, we have 2 comments on Spotify. The way that I saved them on, I also don't know who's leaving comments. If you are, cool. The first comment literally says, I don't know if you will ever see this. So it took a while.
We
I
saw it, baby.
I also don't know, by the nature of this, I don't think most listeners are going to listen to more than one. But, you know, it is what it is. Cole Heidemann says on the Amygdalatropolis episode, I don't know if y'all will see this, but I read this after Negative Space, which is another Yeager book.
Yeah.
There's some interesting threads of continuity between the 2 books. The online character accepting online life as all there is, the dreamlike segments, some of the emotional vocabulary, parentheses, alabaster, staring knives, the term negative space, some drug use, suicide, of course. I think I like this book more, though.
Interesting.
And then Cole replied to his own comment and just said, the Chachi Boy Cam segments and the strange game run his dad's computer. I think the implication was that his dad made the game, but I don't know. But the bookmarks and cam girls were his dad's at that point, and it reinforces the idea of online is more than the real, is the only way he knows his dad at all by going through his computer. His mom wasn't online, and thus her memory basically fades from him.
Okay. Yeah. Beautiful.
So
I think with regards to Negative Space, which I haven't read, but with regard to Negative Space and Amygdalatropolis having overlapping stuff, I think that might just be the world of B.R. Yeager. I think he might just be very much thematically interested in similar things and exploring those things from different angles, and that might create the illusion, if not the reality, of those texts interacting with one another.
I do feel very sad that like if the idea of like somebody not being online, so their entire essence just fading from you because you are so online.
It happens.
It is. It does.
It happens a lot. I think it's going to happen more and more now that we have the introduction of
chatbots.
Yeah, like I think chatbots are going to make up a larger and larger percentage of who people are just talking to on a day-to-day basis.
Like the average like session length for like kids on like character AI is insane.
What even is? Can you explain what character AI is?
Character AI is, I think there's a combination of like licensed characters and just original characters that, who did character AI? I should know this. Doesn't matter. That they created that you can just chat with, and they remember. There's like a persistent memory, so it's
like I can chat with Mickey Mouse if I want to.
I don't know if he's licensed, but yes, theoretically. So say you're chatting with Mickey Mouse, and
like he probably is because Disney didn't.
Well, that went to OpenAI, and that went to Sora, and that went to a different thing. But that's just one company. Character AI is a different thing altogether.
Okay.
But it's like a instead of like IMing with your friend, like in the 90s on AOL and Messenger, you're just talking to like a character, whether it's Mickey Mouse or just like some mouse that's like some cartoon mouse that's not in anything else, but just a character on there. And so it's like a friendship thing. But like the average like session duration for like a lot of kids is like over 2 hours of sitting, and like it's like more than that per day. And it's where these kids are spending time.
How it's like do you remember Smarter Child?
Yeah.
But like we used to just with Smarter Child, we used to just be like, haha, suck my dick.
Right.
Or whatever. And then Smarter Child would just be like, nah, nah, nah. You'd be like, oh, you're a fucking loser.
Well, there's also
Child.
Tay. Do you remember Tay like 10 years ago?
No.
Microsoft put out a chatbot called Tay that was supposed to be like Clippy, but like for the modern age. Like this is like 2014 or something. And within like an afternoon, people talking to Tay turned into like
I remember this.
A Nazi sympathizer who like was like horrific and filled with hate speech or whatever. Microsoft's like, oh, we got to shut this down.
Yeah.
And so like that's why the big thing around, or one of the big things around AI is like guardrails and it's like brand safety. It's like if Disney is giving OpenAI $1 billion for a year to license their characters and their whatever to this company so people can generate without being like told this is against our brand guidelines or whatever, that if you're going to let Donald and Mickey or whatever do whatever they want, they have to be written into the code. There have to be guardrails so that like things.
So you can't have Donald fucking Mickey or whatever.
Theoretically not.
Yeah.
I mean, there are ways that you can sort of probably get around the system, or like ways to prompt the system to,
get around itself.
Like there's always news. It's just like ChatGPT or whatever large language model or interface or whatever is just like, they told this person how to make pipe bombs or whatever. It's like, but you have to get around, like, it's not, like, by design, like, you're not supposed to be able to do that, but like there are ways that you can like get around it or whatever.
Well, I mean, there has always been the consistent idea that the second that you introduce a thing to the internet, the global community of people that are internety, like hackers or whatever, are going to find a way to exploit that to do whatever they feel like doing, because they are collectively smarter than the people that put it together. And
sometimes it's, bad, and sometimes they just wind up naming a boat Bodie McBoatface because you leave a poll up to the internet. It's just like, why would you do that?
I'm mostly on the side of the hackers. I'd rather, I think they're...
I mean, also, like, if you think about it, like, them doing that and exposing, shortcomings or flaws or whatever, loopholes,
it usually gets them jobs, doesn't it?
Gets them jobs, and also, like, just makes, like, a better, stronger, safer thing in the long term. It's just, like, whatever was rolled out, like, Tay was lived for, like, 24 hours, if even that, I don't know.
Yeah.
Keep reading.
Oh, fuck. Today's crime is a murder on Christmas morning.
Whoa.